Hi there, friends. Welcome back to the Meaningless Podcast, a podcast that asks the question, since no one knows what is coming, who can tell someone else what will happen after them? I'm Pastor Tim, here with my friend Ian.
Hey, how's it going?
Hope you're all doing well. This episode should be coming out the week after Thanksgiving. Hope that you enjoyed
Yes.
your time. Uh, we're reading Ecclesiastes chapter 10. Ian, thoughts, comments, introductory thoughts that you've got?
Well, just as we were kind of having a short conversation leading up to the recording, we mentioned the word prudence right here in the beginning. It's so like, not just prudence too, but we came across meekness. So last time in the previous episode, we talked about like some of the kind of Christian virtues. So I think this is really cool here to start seeing like a little, even like you said, this may seem more like Proverbs if you want to get into that.
Mm.
But like I still see some kind of gospel stuff here with like, the virtues. Like I said, so let's take a look, see what we have. And I have a couple things here and there, hopefully that some insight that people might find helpful. So maybe we'll see. Who knows? You can't predict the future, so we'll leave it up to chance.
That's true. Who can tell? Who can tell? Well, Ian, I think it's your turn to read us
Yes, I think
the
it is.
portion. So, again, friends, we're reading Ecclesiastes chapter 10, New International Version. Ian's
Yes.
turn this week.
Yes. All right. So, Ecclesiastes chapter 10. As dead flies give perfume a bad smell, so a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. The heart of the wise inclines to the right, but the heart of the fool to the left. Even as fools walk along the road, they lack sense and show everyone how stupid they are. If a ruler's anger rises against you, do not leave your post. Calmness can lay great offenses to rest. There is an evil I have seen under the sun, the sort of error that arises from a ruler. Fools are put in many high positions, while the rich occupy the low ones. I have seen slaves on horseback, while princes go on foot like slaves. Whoever digs a pit may fall into it. Whoever breaks through a wall may be bitten by a snake. Whoever quarries stone may be injured by them. Whoever splits logs may be endangered by them. If the axe is dull and its edge unsharpened, more strength is needed, but skill will bring success. If a snake bites before it's charmed, the charmer receives no fee. Words from the mouth of the wise are gracious, but fools are consumed by their own lips. At the beginning, their words are folly. At the end, they are wicked madness, and fools multiply words. No one knows what is coming. Who can tell someone else what will happen after them? The toil of fools wearies them. They do not know the way to town. Woe to the land whose king was a servant and whose princes feast in the morning. Blessed is the land whose king is of noble birth and whose princes eat at the proper time, for strength and not for drunkenness. Through laziness the rafters sag, because of idle hands the house leaks. A feast is made for laughter, wine makes life merry, and money is the answer for everything. Do not revile the king even in your thoughts, or curse the rich in your bedroom, because a bird in the sky may carry your words, and a bird on the wing may report what you said. I have to laugh at that one. Money solves all ills.
This is
Uh,
such a this is such a practical chapter.
yeah,
Um,
this is like an instruction manual you read before you play the board game that we were going to play or the card game. You got to read the rules first.
there you go. And the game here is life,
Yeah.
which is a terrible, terrible board game. Last time I was talking about how I like the games.
Thanks. I didn't know if you had to say it.
Excuse me.
Didn't want to
Um,
upset anybody. Bless you.
I'll shoot us an email. Let me know if you are a huge fan of the game of life.
Yeah, we'll have to do game night again. That was fun.
There we go. Stop by for a game night here at Grace of God.
Yeah. All right.
Start our way from the top and work on down as usual.
Yeah, let's do it in order and go what's kind of stood out to us. And I know
Yeah.
we don't really get to everything because time constraints, or I think sometimes too like this stuff is so deep. And I think a good thing, I always love Luther. I think it's in his commentary of Genesis, and he talks about like he compared the Holy Scriptures to like a pear tree in an orchard, right? Like every time he would shake it with a stick, tons of fruit would fall down.
Something more.
So, there's always something there to whack the tree. So just because we do one episode doesn't mean it's like the end all be all of everything. Like
No.
that's the beauty of the gospel, and that's the beauty of the scriptures, is that you can read it over and over again and always find something, always find a
Hmm.
nugget. And I think I'm in agreement with Luther there. That's generally been my experience.
Yeah. I'm in that vein. I'm before we got on our call, my usual we're recording this on a Monday. My usual pattern for work is on Monday morning I start looking at the whatever the Bible text is that I'm going to preach on the coming Sunday. And it's one that I have preached on before, but I'm not just going to pull out my old sermon and just immediately use that. Um, Already, just sitting down and reading this, it was a few years ago that I preached on this, so it's not like I remember it so distinctly, anyways. Um, but already, just sitting down, I thought, wow, there's just things that have happened in my life, in the life of the congregation, in the life of people that I know, where new thoughts occur to me as I sit down with this portion of scripture. Um, yeah, our goal is not to try and be an exhaustive um, commentary on every aspect of these selections from the Bible, but just to sit down with you listeners and hit some big high level thoughts generally about what God has for us in
Generally.
this portion.
Yeah, I think so. And, you know, I think that's better to do it more relatable, easy to
Hmm.
understand. I'm not trying to go crazy.
Right.
But
Well, so
yeah, man.
if we start working our way down from the beginning of the chapter, I found verse 2 to be really an interesting one, and
Yeah, I was
it
gonna ask you about that one actually, because I was kind of like, well, I know it right and left, good, bad, but like, what does it really mean?
yeah,
I was trying
because
to piece that one out.
if you're an American and you sit down with that verse where it talks about the wise people go to the right and the fools go to the left,
Yeah,
it this is not a comment that we should take into like
the political
modern
sphere.
American politics, yeah, where the right, conservatism, the left, foolishness. I mean, I'm good. Like maybe just fair to say, um, we as a conservative Lutheran church, there's a lot of stuff in the on the right that is truly like morally we align with. We
Yeah,
are a church that confesses that God designed man and woman for lifelong companionship. That's what marriage and sexuality is designed for. Um, that I don't know. There's like all kinds of examples that we could go into. Um, it would be then easy to just totally distort this Bible passage and be like,
yeah.
see, the Bible was right all along, but that's not what this is about.
I think that's really stretching it. Like, really, it's kind of like
Oh,
putting something in there that's not there at
a
all.
horrible abuse. It would be a horrible abuse of the Bible. It'd also just be so facile, as if like there were, as if sort of left-leaning people had absolutely no thoughts that Christians would agree with.
Yeah, no,
Concern and mercy kinds
yeah.
of things often are. Um,
Well, I think of it this way as a Lutheran, like right and left. I think of like the right and the left hand kingdom, like the two kingdoms, so the spiritual and the temporal.
mhm.
Like the heart of the wise inclines to the right, which is the spiritual kingdom, right? So we're aspiring
Ah,
to heavenly and godly spiritual things, in our faith and through Christ and God and the whole work of the Holy Spirit. But
and the
the to
left.
the left is the temporal, the physical, the material, kind of as we mentioned last time, hedonistic things, or just as he mentioned later in the well, I meant not mentioned later in the passage, you know, not eating for strength, but eating for drunkenness and stuff like that, Um,
Yeah. Now that's an interesting one. I hadn't thought about that, but what you're laying out, Ian, and I'm just gonna lay it out for the listener too, if they're not familiar. Especially in Lutheran theology, we talk about the way that God rules over the world in terms of two kingdoms, like two systems of rule, where there is what we call the right hand kingdom, which is the Christian church, like not just Grace of God Lutheran Church or our particular Lutheran branch, the Wisconsin Synod of Lutherans, or Protestantism, but all Christians belong to God's right hand kingdom, um, which he rules with his word in the Bible. All people are also ruled over by God in what we call the left hand kingdom, the kingdoms of the world, where God rules through the actions of human rulers. And he appoints rulers to do that, and he uses them for that. And at times he dethrones rulers when they do not carry out his will as he would have them do. But overall, like, yeah, that's a better maybe thought about this passage is that if we were going to read it in kind of such a juxtaposed way and look for something deeper, that yeah, the wise person is. I like that the wise person is inclined toward the spiritual kingdom and has an eye for that, and the
Yeah.
foolish person can only see the things of this life.
Yeah,
Um,
like we think of modern society, which is kind of like this pure distilled scientific materialism, where there is no really meaning, and the temporal realm is the only thing, and then there's no spiritual whatsoever. So I feel
mhm.
like, too, in a sense, that is kind of foolish because there's a whole another world.
Yes.
Well, the irony of that too is they'll acknowledge every other religion and spirituality and kind of thing, but except Christianity. They'll
Right.
if they'll say that everything else is true, Hinduism, Judaism, whatever, but Christianity, no. Like, it's kind of baked in, I think, now. But
Yeah.
I
The way that I
digress.
read the way that I read that passage was different yet. I like
Sure.
yours. I would roll with it. This is one of those instances where, people say things sometimes like, "Oh, that's just your interpretation." And
Well,
usually,
yeah, it is.
right, well,
Thanks.
usually when they say that, what they mean is I can read that that's plainly what the Bible says or something, but I don't want to acknowledge it, and so I'm just going to
Yeah,
call it your
that's well.
interpretation. And that's not
Well,
really
yeah, they don't want to admit that it's true, and maybe deep down they agree with it, but they're uncomfortable about it. So
right.
they have to
So
make up
that's
a
not
defense.
properly. And Ian, you as a translator understand that too. Like, and I
Yeah.
as somebody who's um, language trained, like you can't just say that everything is an interpretation. Like there are just times where we say what something means and that's what it means.
Yeah.
But there
It
are
doesn't.
times where there's comments like this in the Bible where we read it and we think like what exactly is being said here?
Mhm.
Yeah. I read it this way. Um,
Sure.
that the heart of the wise inclines to the right, but the heart of the fool is to the left. Just that if I'm looking at someone and I see him turn, I know whether he went right or left.
Hmm.
The action is obvious. There's an
Ah,
obvious difference between the two actions. If he goes left, and thusly, too, we can distinguish between the wise and the fool. Like
mhm.
it is not hard to see a wise person, and it is not hard to see a foolish person. It's as simple. Solomon's saying it's as simple to see this as it is to see whether someone turns right or left when they're walking away from you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what he's saying. He says, even as a fool walks along the road, they lack sense and show everyone how stupid they really are.
Yeah, and
So,
I think seeing that in three, um,
really just kind of boom, really hits home
yeah,
the
he
point
underscores.
there.
Hmm.
I like how simple it is. Like you just take one look at the guy and you already know. you know?
And
So
this, if I can dive into that for a second, I get really annoyed when people are heavily influenced by influencers.
yeah.
People who they don't know that you get somebody who's a YouTuber who's going to tell you like, oh, buy my crypto or buy my
Yeah, well, there's an
supplement.
agenda.
Yeah,
Make,
take
make
my
me make me money and famous.
yeah, look at my Lamborghini. Take my course and you'll be and it's manosphere types like
Oh yeah, yeah.
we're gonna sell you like their class to basically you're gonna learn how to drop ship and make a bunch of money. Like it's stupid. It's also like there's a female ecosystem on that side too. Health and
Yeah.
wellness tends to be more the grift there.
Yeah.
But
I'm like an internet, kind of I was I'm a millennial, so I grew up in like the early internet. We always used to say that all e-celebrities are cancer. So don't pay attention to any influencers or e-celebrities because all they want is attention. They want attention, they want money, they want something like
mhm,
that. And they're trying to sell you something. They're not trying
Yeah.
to help you. They don't care about you only as much as you can support their lifestyle, right?
Yes.
So
And the particular thought here is when people watch these folks, they're trying to they we watch them and we try and figure out, is this a wise person or are they a foolish person? Should I listen to them?
yeah,
Um, and the problem for us is we don't actually know these people.
yeah,
We can't look. Are you turning right or are you turning left? How is your life actually turning out? Because what I get to see of an influencer's life is only what they want me to see. It's the video that they
absolutely.
post. It's not
Yes.
it's
It's
not the rest.
performative. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
structured, it's kind of isolated. And I think it's kind of funny, my thought here was um my thought here was that the fly in the ointment kind of thing. Like imagine you see the fool, how obvious he is walking down the street,
Face
and
to face and see their lives and see the things that they do day by day. Like don't just sit on your phone and watch influencers. Go to church. Join a bowling league. Like whatever. Yeah, I know we had a little bit of a cutout.
yeah,
Didn't
you
we?
cut out and I thought you stopped talking, so I started talking.
Well,
Uh
listener, well, after these last couple episodes, we're gonna have to see on the recordings how things shake out.
mhm.
Um, so sorry about that. Hopefully you aren't listening to me and Ian talk over each other.
Yeah, no, I'll take a look at it, and but I'll just say real quickly that you know, when you talk about like dead flies give perfume a bad smell, I mean, if you're going to be following somebody like that, that's clearly being an idiot on the road, like you're with them. What do you look like? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So something good to think about when you think about your own reputation and how thoughts influence you, because sometimes you may I know it's a part of it, it's a lot of attention and this kind of what's the term they use for it, like parasocial relationship where it's like
Yes.
this
Exactly.
one-sided kind of thing. Like I see a lot of it in music, especially online. Like I follow bands and stuff on Twitter because it's easy to see when the new album comes out or the shows. But like you see people on them there, and they just worship these people. It's like it's just crazy to see like that kind of level of. I mean, it's just idolatry,
Yeah.
really. But it's so, and that's just a band. What are these people? How are they influencing your thoughts, your behaviors? Right, that's where your behaviors stem from. So
And and do you know them? Like I always come around to
yeah,
that. Do you actually know this person or do you know an image that they're projecting? Um, can you evaluate if you can't evaluate someone's life, not to say like be super judgmental of everyone, but
yeah,
if you're looking for a role model, if you're looking for someone whose life advice you're going to follow, you need to be able to see their actual life. You need to
yeah,
be able to see their day by day. So again, like go to church, join a bowling league, um,
yeah.
do,
Even something
do
community oriented.
yeah, do something where you're meeting real people whose lives you can see in action, and then ask
Mhm.
yourself, who should I imitate?
Yeah, Jesus
Keep
Christ. That's who you should
Well, yeah.
imitate.
I mean, there you go. Wait, yeah. Read your Bible and imitate Jesus. Like that. Actually, best advice we can give you.
Yeah, so I mean it's the
Um,
easy one, so it's the obvious one. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean to go on, not to go on too long about that one, but I really love four because this year is like again going back to the idea of some of the Christian virtues like meekness.
Mm.
So you have the line is if a ruler's anger rises against you, do not leave your post. Calmness can lay great offenses to rest. So I mean, I'm pretty hot headed. I definitely have a Scottish temper, so I am known to fly off the handle pretty quickly most of my life.
Mm.
So this was, I don't know, it's weird after my kind of I don't know, my conversion or my calling, and things kind of changed drastically. But you know, this one was always hard for me to maintain because here calmness is not just, kind of like sitting back and being passively taking like abuse or something like that. I mean, in this sense, it could also be just being patient with something. How many times have you upset somebody and, over time they just forget about it and you don't even remember it, or they upset you and you don't even remember it happened, right?
Hmm.
So I think, maybe the kind of common phrase that we think of is like time heals all wounds, right? If you want to use like a little cliche kind of phrase to get it, like, but I think, And the ruler doesn't have to be like necessarily the king. It could be anybody in
Yeah.
that kind of hierarchical relationship. Your parents, your job, and
Hmm.
it doesn't mean be a slave. It means just I think what did I say before when we were starting this? Kind of like a level-headed kind of
Yeah.
perseverance among
Good.
adversity or something like that. Even if
Yeah.
somebody's displeased with you, don't use that as an excuse to say, oh well, screw it, I'm just gonna do whatever I want, or do what will benefit me and not them, or harm them.
Hmm.
Just do what you're expected to do and keep your head down. you know
Yeah. Don't make the situation worse.
yeah.
Just do what you ought to and hope that that can um, get things back to where you want them to be. Um,
Yeah, because I think that the actions there and that kind of consistency speaks way more than any kind of like verbal self justification would.
yeah.
Uh,
And I think often, like we might sometimes think, especially if we're having a conflict with an authority figure, that sort of doubling down, we hope like that we'll win out that fight or whatever. But I think about a guy I know who is doing some like continuing education and um, got into a disagreement with one of his teachers um, over the like basically over the content of the class. And then rather than like just talking to the teacher about it or anything, became disruptive in class and almost got kicked out. And he had to like dial himself back and think like, hey, this was stupid, what I was doing. But we are
very
dumb.
life.
Like our hearts are
Yeah.
naturally like we do stupid stuff. We think like bluff and bluster is gonna um, be the advantageous thing when
Yeah.
it's so often just the most destructive thing. Um,
Yeah. I feel sometimes it's like unintentional too, because there's plenty of times where I've been like going to do something, and then like right as it's about to happen, I do like the really dumb thing that I shouldn't do, even though I know like in explicit detail in my head what I'm supposed to be doing. I still do the wrong thing anyway. So
I'm thinking about it brings to mind for me the poor wise man who was at the
hmm
end of chapter 9.
Right.
If you didn't get a chance to listen to chapter 9, go back and listen to that. But story gets
hmm
told of this poor wise man who his city is being attacked by an army, and he suggests a course of action to his ruler that results in the city being saved from the attacking army. The poor man's wisdom wins out the day, but Solomon says, yet nobody remembered the poor man. Um,
Yeah.
very few people remembered his role in protecting their city. And that's the thing that we want to avoid naturally. We're always like, no, I can't be forgotten. Um, I need to be remembered. And that's where that like bluff and bluster kind of stuff
Yeah.
comes out. Like, well, if
Absolutely.
I'm in a disagreement with this teacher, I'm gonna get right up in his face and he's gonna
He's
back
gonna
down like
know.
my right. And
I'm gonna tell
no, like
him.
we just end up shooting ourselves in the foot.
Yeah.
It's foolish.
I just real quick, I really like you made me think of me, I always loved Seneca. Seneca was one of my favorites before I kind of came back to Christianity, and he talks in one of his letters where it's like he tells a little story at the end where he's like, there was like a philosopher and an artist, and the philosopher asked the artist, he said, why should you continue doing an art that reaches but few? And the artist said, I'm content with few, content with one, and content with none at all. So, right, like it's kind of going back into that sense of where is the kind of the purity in which we do things, right? What is the motivation? What's the audience for it? So I
Mm,
think it really ties into like what you were talking about. I don't know. I just always like that one.
yeah.
not trying to convert anybody to stoicism. Don't get the wrong message. But sometimes, there's a little good things that here and there that I
Yeah.
think are, maybe
Yeah.
also I think of it this way, if somebody's interested in that, share that idea, and then it brings them into listening to what we have to say and what the scriptures have to say.
And it's what Solomon did too. Ecclesiastes, Proverbs,
Paul,
includes
St. Paul.
includes portions that either explicitly or on upon analysis came from others who maybe were not even believers. Like there's an extended portion in Proverbs excerpted from a guy named Agar, who is not one of the kings of Israel. Like, who is this guy? Was he um, a believer during the Old Testament era, out in the true God, but outside the Israelite, the Jewish people?
Mm-hmm.
Or is he just a pagan with some wisdom?
Yeah.
Solomon doesn't say, and it doesn't matter. Like
Mm-hmm.
the important thing is just here's some wisdom, and
Yeah.
same thing. We we do remember, of course, like we talked about it at the beginning with the right and the left, the curve, that there is something higher. There is an afterlife. There is a God who judges the living and the dead. But like we talked about last time, he has carried out the judgment in the person and work of Jesus. We are forgiven for all our stupid bluff and bluster and
That we're so want to do.
exactly right.
Our nature.
For all these things,
What did
we
Luther
think.
say? The will unbound from God can literally can only commit a mortal sin.
Mhm.
It's
That his
pretty.
quote?
That's from I think that's Heidelberg Disputation. He says that the will outside of God can only commit mortal sins,
Mm.
or something like that. But yeah, it's pretty heavy. When I read that one, I was like, wow. Well, that's like the image too, where he said like, what was it? Man is like a horse. When God rides him, he does God what God wills, and when the devil rides him, he does what the devil wills.
Mhm.
But the end of that, of course, Luther was his typical humor is like, but good thing it's fortunate that man is a lame horse, so that the devil's often thrown off,
That's
the
funny.
rider. So
That's
yeah,
funny.
yeah. So yeah,
Well, a couple more.
I love, yeah. Did you have
Couple
something
more
to finish on that one, or
on the chapter or on that thought.
no? Just on that thought there.
I didn't have anything. Did you have a remark?
Yeah, no, not
There.
really. I wanted to get into 5 to 7. I really love this one
Yeah, if you've got something
because
there, then I've got some thoughts from 8 to 9. So you go ahead.
sure, and then I have some there too. So I really love this one because we just talked about obey the king in Ecclesiastes 8, right? You got to follow the rules. We talked about Romans 13 and everything, and
Mhm.
then here we go. Oh wait, the king's a fool. He's stupid. No, you still have to follow the rules, unfortunately. But I think the thing here is that like I think this shows like maybe that the true reward is not always having power or having wealth or having status in this, right? Because he says, well, the rich occupy the low ones, and obviously he's not talking about people with money, even though later he
Mhm.
says money cures
Money
all
is the
else
answer to
or what.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
I don't
that
know
should
about
probably
that
be
one.
yeah, that should be the verse I think we kind of wrap up on, just reflecting on
Yeah,
what's being
like
said there. But
what does that mean? But yeah, I really love that one. The rich occupy the lowest positions, right? And then it goes back to the idea of the works being forgotten. The rich are doing them because, like, as we believe as Christians, like we already have our reward, right? And our next reward in the afterlife. But God has given our reward. That's our reward. So we don't do things to necessarily please God or necessarily please other people, right? We're doing it
mhm.
because we're already rich in Christ. So
Yep.
this is where I see this. Like this is once I saw that, I was like, oh, this is perfect. And I always go on about like the simple jobs, the simple roles, responsibilities that we have. Like that stuff is so important. And that's where the real richness and rewards are, right? Um, so, like you said, slaves on horseback. And that's kind of what we are, right? We're like slaves on horseback, and the kings are on foot like slaves. So, always again, the cycle too you see here, where it's like not what you expected, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah, I just love that one. It's so good. Um, and it just shows that life isn't always what we expect it to be. You know, we would think, oh, the best people would be in the best positions, but no, it often doesn't work out that way. It's quite the opposite. Often the worst people are in the highest positions, and we just
Mhm.
have to be like, all right, let's pray that they do a good job. like, you know,
Yeah. Well, what you just said there, good for me to jump into 8 and 9.
sure.
When you said like, we're not always sure what life is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
8 and 9 are these interesting ones. I talked in chapter 9 again. If you've listened to that already, listener, if you haven't, go back and listen to that.
Mm-hmm.
about a section in there that I called the anti-proverbs, where Solomon says, sometimes the swift one doesn't win the race. Sometimes the strong one doesn't win the battle. The role of what we, from our human perspective, are going to call chance in life. The book of Proverbs overall just tells us, work hard, build, invest,
Yeah.
give yourself. And overall, I would say too, like that is the main message of Ecclesiastes. But Ecclesiastes also kind of tempers some of that with so 8 and 9, when it says, whoever digs a pit may fall into it. This isn't just someone who's like digging a pit randomly, like I'm out in the yard just digging for fun, and then oops, I trip into it. Like I'm I'm digging a pit for sake of like industry, entrepreneurial, right? I'm doing something here. Whoever breaks through a wall is not just like I'm just punching holes in my wall. Like if you're anybody who's an Office fan, when Andy punches the hole in the wall, a great bit. But this is somebody who's like expanding their home, like putting on an addition. So he's knocking out the wall.
Yeah, hopefully you don't have snakes in your wall, man.
Right. Yeah. I didn't look up too much about like, was that a common thing? But it seems like, well, when I was a kid in Florida, one time we got
Oh yeah.
a possum, a possum inside one of our walls. We had to have him
Wow.
fished out of there. And yeah, when we first moved into our house, the parsonage that the church owns here for the pastor, we got a raccoon in the attic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So people are familiar with those kinds of things. Seems like the Old Testament era equivalent was apparently sometimes snakes would get into. I don't know what the sort of materials of construction were, but
Yeah.
apparently a snake would sometimes burrow in there, and it was a possibility that you had to be careful as you like knock down a wall to do an expansion because there might be a snake in there.
I think another way to say it would be like whoever breaks through a wall, the wall may collapse on him. Like something bad could happen.
Exactly. There's this thought. I understand the power of positive thinking isn't like the be all end all. Sorry, Norman Peeler and all the pop Christian.
I actually think that stuff is more satanic, but that's my own personal opinion. So, and we could talk about that another time. But I see this like there's no reward without risk. That's what I see. Yeah. Like if you whatever you do, there's always going to be some level of risk involved in it. And that's part of the reward is taking the risk, right? Because he's really talking about here how valuable your life is. Your life is so valuable because God put you here to accomplish his purposes, whether it's baking the bread or taking out the trash or being a pastor or being a doctor or whatever you do, all the things. So I think that's really kind of the thing, I see here that, and again, with always this kind of like, what do you call it? This dual nature to everything that I see, constantly throughout. We talked about kind of the cycles of everything. So maybe with any kind of activity, there are kind of like a pros and cons to it, right? And maybe ourselves to, instead of the power of the positive thinking, we're only thinking positive thoughts. We're thinking, hey, let's be aware of the dangers, the pros and cons, right? What are the potentialities? Because we need to think realistically, not, euphemistically or whatever. I don't know what the word is. I was trying to sound something that sounds smart, but it didn't work.
Well, I think
you get what I mean, though.
Yeah, exactly. But so 8 and 9 are well balanced by verse 18 for the end of the chapter. So we need different people need to hear different things from the Bible. So somebody who's super optimistic and just thinks, well, like for instance, I had somebody who was telling me about, he was going to start investing in crypto and he was going to start putting that on his credit card. And I just told him that's a bad idea. Like you're
you're going to be like debt on top of debt. Like you're just going to multiply debt.
Exactly. And that's an extreme example of somebody who's like, power of positive thinking, just I'm going to do this. Like, dig that pit and you might fall into it.
Yeah.
Um, like you got to be warned about being overly optimistic. But then there's the person who maybe says, well, oh, I know that the I know that the house needs some work, but man, if I climb up there, what if I slip and fall off the ladder? Well, verse 18 says, through laziness, the rafters sag, because of idle hands, the house leaks. Like, you can't, the solution is not to, um, you always have to just do the things that need doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's
Yeah. Well.
wisdom here.
Go ahead. Wisdom.
Yeah, there's wisdom here. There's not always like a clear and immediate choice to make.
Mm-hmm.
That is obviously the right one. So we just go at it with faith, knowing that, knowing because of Jesus that God loves us. Um, we go after the decisions that present themselves to us day by day. Yeah, with faith, um, and hope in God, um, rather than insane optimism or apathy.
Yeah. Well, I think today it's always those two extremes. It's like it's actually kind of a weird mix of the both. I feel like it's like an apathetic positivity. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think Instagram is a great example of like I would say toxic positivity, where
Mm-hmm.
like everything has to be like you have to be glorifying everybody and everything and making them perfect and beautiful and smart and successful. And if you have even like the slightest criticism, you're like banned instantly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, again, what I think this kind of passage here, 8 and 9 that we're still on, really is kind of like the context too. Like what context do we look at things?
Uh-huh.
How the context changes it, right? So pits can be used for different things. Like you said, it can be something dangerous, it can be something beneficial. So again, like I talked about with the pros and cons, you kind of want to weigh out situations more. Like you're talking about the crypto thing, for example, just to kind of riff off
Yeah.
that, do the research. If you're going to do it, save some money, have some money aside that if you lose it, you just lost that money. You're not, you know, 25K in the hole now because somebody stole your wallet or, you made a bet, you got scammed or something like that, you
Yep.
know. But again,
Right.
remember that's what people do, you know people are sinners. People are going to want to do stupid things. And I'm not saying that person specifically because I've done plenty of dumb things myself. So
Yeah.
I'm an expert. I'm very experienced.
Solomon himself acknowledges it
Yeah,
in
that's
the
what I'm
book of Proverbs,
saying.
acknowledges in Ecclesiastes, like his own. So the narrative around Solomon in the Bible is that he is given God comes to him one night and it's genie in the lamp. Ask me for anything. I'll give you any wish, any one wish. And Solomon says, "Make me wise." God's like, "I love that. Great, I'll do that for you." Um, Basically, a very short, condensed version of that story from Solomon's life. Um, that doesn't mean that Solomon only does wise things throughout his life, though.
Yeah.
He is a sinner, as you and I are sinners, and at times his wisdom is outweighed uh, by his natural sinfulness.
Yeah, I mean that dude loved to party. Like clearly,
Yeah,
he was quite the hedonist and aesthetic, aesthete, or
yeah,
whatever you want to say. Like building gardens and music and dancing and wine. And I love that little one. Got my wine guiding my wisdom or whatever in the beginning.
my
It's
mind guided by wisdom still. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, maybe, and we're drawing to the time limit we had wanted to put on recording this morning. So, um, like we said, there's a lot in here. Read it, meditate on it yourselves. 19, verse 19,
yeah.
that thought at the end there. Money is the answer for everything. A feast is made for laughter. Wine makes life merry, and money is the answer for everything. What's he saying there? Like, let's just chew on that a little bit, I think, as we close out today.
Okay. I don't know. I kind of have a trouble with this thing because like I
Okay.
get the other one. A feast is made for laughter, right? Like there's a time and place for everything, right? Wine makes life merry, but remember we have to remember back what he said in 9. Drink your wine with a glad heart and thanksgiving, right, to
Yeah.
God. Not doing it to get plastered. And that's what he also says right here. I think is a little kind of important thing to remember with 19 if we go back a little bit. To passage 17. Blessed is the land whose king is of noble birth, and whose princes eat at the proper time for strength and not for drunkenness, right? So again, it's always comes back to what was the word that we used at the beginning of this, prudence, right? That's really what it comes down to, discernment. When is the appropriate time for certain things? And I think that, and what to do or what to say or how to think about something. And I think that's what really we're talking about when we separate right, left, or wisdom and fool, the wise and the fool.
Mm-hmm.
Money is the answer for everything. I mean, I guess in a sense, the only way I could really think of it is that money is kind of like, I would say, like a necessary evil, right? Like we need money to
Yeah.
do things. And it's not that like money cures all ills that, like I said before, but it's more like, if you have money, you'll be able to do the things. And like me, my personal experience, I was a freelancer for so long, to have like a steady income now, it's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And as the thing is, it's hard for me to save money, not because I spend a lot of money myself, but I'm like really generous. Like every time they got like a food thing at work, food drive thing, you can round up. So I'm always like putting like 80 cents on there. I buy like a soda, it's like $3. Now it's $4. I go to the place, I tip like $3, $4, whatever, because I worked in those jobs. I know it's miserable. So, and I want to spread that because I got my reward already, man,
Mm-hmm.
in Christ Jesus. Like I don't money is not, it helps me enjoy things. It helps me get food. I can help other people, right? Use it to, even if it's $2, for somebody at the restaurant or the counter or whatever, So like I look at it that way. Um,
Mm.
because that's not my reward. Like I work hard to make money because I want money because I need money to do the other parts of my vocation, my other
Yeah.
vocation, and live in the world.
Yeah. I think that is what we read here. It's
Oh,
not it's a practical thing, right? Like you said, a necessary evil. I also think, and the way that our Bibles break things apart, I think it would actually be good for verses 18 and 19 to be together. Um, I think 19 sort of flows out of 18. For the person who um, is afraid to get after the things that they need to do, right? So 18 talking about the rafters sagging and the house leaking because of laziness and idle hands. Um, 19 is more of a positive encouragement toward work, where 18 is, hey, if you don't work, if you aren't active, your house will literally fall apart around you. And 19 just
yeah.
reminds, and there's also like a positive um, aspect of work. Work doesn't allow us to just maintain, but if you can throw a feast, I
Mhm.
think about the times that we've had like cookouts in our backyard. That's
Mhm.
there's some work involved in
Yeah.
getting things set up and getting the food together, etc.
Yeah, getting everybody to not bring cake and like actually bring barbecue stuff, right?
But it's a joy, and money is, and then in that sense, money is the answer for everything. Like, yeah, you need money. Solomon's just
Hmm.
saying you can't live without it. Like,
Yeah.
don't be dumb. Like, is basically it's so much of what Solomon says can be summed up with "don't be dumb." And in this sense, it's
Yeah.
like don't be dumb about money.
Uh,
Understand that money is this necessary evil, um, and that it can be put to good use, and you need it.
yeah. Oh, I think really kind of on the end note here, my favorite one was just the image was the toil. This is line 15 was the toil of the fool wearies them. They do not know the way to town. So thinking of like I was mentioning kind of like the entourage of the fool around the influencers in the beginning when we were talking about like the fool walks along the road and everybody knows he's stupid. Like, yeah, he doesn't even know the way to town. How are you going to trust that guy? Like, he can't even put on, he doesn't know what shoe is right or left. So the pants are backwards, his socks are inside out. You're going to trust this guy. So, like I said, prudence, right? I
Hmm.
think is really the thing we want to think about. And like not being hasty. We talked about meekness as well, too. Like,
Hmm.
don't be hasty in making decisions. I know sometimes we're like under a lot of pressure. It's easy to just kind of go with your instinct or what you're feeling in the moment. Um, I know I do. I have that trouble all the time. So, I feel you. But really just kind of try to take the time. But I always like the image, right? You said like chew on it, like when we say in the Bible, meditate means like to kind of like suck the marrow out of
Yeah.
something, to like chew, really digest it. Where mine is my kind of way is always just like it like kind of floats in like the back of my subconscious somewhere, and then it just kind of like pops out. So I'm more like an inspirational kind of person when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to that. Yeah, but like I said, um, we need to learn the appropriate time and place
Yeah.
for these things. And I like how the toil of the fool wearies them. Why? Because, like we said, he's not in the right hand kingdom. He's not right with God, on that
Mm-hmm.
y axis. If you want to think of it as a cross, right? The y axis and the x, right? With God and
Yep.
then creation.
Yep. Reconciliation
So,
established vertically between us and
yeah.
God, that vertical bar of the cross.
Mm-hmm.
Through that, we can hang our we hang our horizontal relationships on that vertical one, right?
Yeah.
If you try to set up a cross, you have to set up the vertical beam, the up and
Mm-hmm.
down first.
Yeah.
If you try to hang the horizontal beam of the cross first, it'll just fall on the ground.
Yeah.
But if you establish the vertical first, then you can hang the horizontal.
Yeah.
And that's the cross as a symbol for what we have. We have the vertical relationship established with God. We hang our
Yeah.
lives here in this world horizontally on that.
Yeah. Good with God, good with creation, right?
Amen.
All
That's
right.
that's what I've got for Ecclesiastes 10. Ian?
Yeah, there's a couple other things here and there, but I just like how he kind of like I love that juxtaposition. Obey the king. Oh well, the king's actually,
Yep.
well, what are
It's
you gonna
realistic,
do? Yeah, it
right?
is. I do like it. That's kind of the thing, It can't. I like how it goes back and forth because he kind of changes, and it's like you said, if you're not reading this with this kind of Christ centered, like kind of viewpoint or gospel
Mm-hmm.
centered viewpoint, like I said, you're going to see this as just like not here, but especially the beginning half of Ecclesiastes. You're going to see as like, what's the point? That doesn't even matter what you do. Just eat and drink, get messed up,
Mm-hmm.
enjoy yourself, and that's the best you can do. But that's not it at all. There's so much there, and then that becomes part of the reward. Even having a meal becomes something, something beautiful and meaningful. Not just it tastes great, or it makes me feel good. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But there's more to it. Yeah,
yeah,
I like that.
it makes the simple profound, if you want to think of it like that, right? For me, I
Hmm.
I always like that because I was like Solomon. I wanted the wisdom. I wanted to know and search and study everything, and in the end, I was like, man, I actually wish I was stupid. Like I wish I was that stillborn child. But no, when I found, came back, it was called. Um, Everything changed, and that's why I see the gospel all over this too. Especially we had last nine. God already approves, so these are the things that you could be doing. All
Yes,
right,
indeed.
so yeah,
Well, thanks,
that's what I
friends.
say.
We'll see you next time for Ecclesiastes chapter 11. God be
Yeah,
with you.
grace and peace be with you.